of the Indian conflict and hostility between location. Hello everyone, very good morning and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep. Welcome to our discussion on international relations. Yesterday we had started with a very important country, that is Pakistan. We covered a few basic aspects of the India-Pakistan relationship. We spoke about a few important locations in Pakistan. We covered the key locations, the provinces, the borders between India, Pakistan and India, Afghanistan. I even explained the roots of the conflict and hostility between India and Pakistan. We understood the ideological difference, which is a fundamental difference between India and Pakistan, which serves as the root of this conflict, and how colonial blunders led to communalization of India's freedom struggle, and how this contributed to the eventual divide between India and Pakistan. We even spoke about the psyche of the Pakistani elite, why Pakistan obsesses with India, why does it try to compete with India all the time. We understood the dual power centers that exist, how the deep state, led by the army and the ISI, have been more powerful than the civilian government. We understood how Pakistan has embraced radical religious ideology and promoted this as a part of its policy against India. This is at the very root of the hostility between the two countries. We even understood why Pakistan resorts to a covert proxy war against India. I was explaining the advantages of a covert proxy war for a country like Pakistan. Covert proxy wars are low cost in nature compared to a conventional war. The funds required, the human cost involved is much lower in a covert proxy war as compared to a conventional conflict. Since Pakistan understood that India is a conventionally superior power, it resorted to the strategy of covert proxy wars against India to destabilize the country. It adopted this as a part of its geopolitical strategy to bleed India to 1,000 cuts by repeatedly sponsoring terror attacks against India in order to exploit the divides, the communal divide in the country, and to destabilize India. To this, Pakistan can avoid the blame as well. It can avoid responsibility. It can plausibly deny its involvement. It can exercise plausible deniability because it's a secret war. It's a secret war where you cannot conclusively prove the links between Pakistan's state agencies like the ISI and the non-state actors such as terrorist outfits. It's a secret proxy war fought with the help of proxies. So Pakistan can keep denying its involvement. It can plausibly deny that it was involved in sponsoring these terrorist outfits. This is the advantage of a covert proxy war, and this has become a strategy for Pakistan, a geopolitical strategy, to bleed India to 1,000 cuts. Especially after 1971, Pakistan's obsession with India increased as it sought revenge against India. So these are the factors which play a role in the India-Pakistan relationship. These are some very essential points that you need to understand. What is the root of this conflict? Why does Pakistan have this hostility towards India since 1947? And why has this increased over a period of time, especially after 1971? And why Pakistan has resorted to this option? If you can understand these 4 or 5 points, it is more than enough, because this is the foundation for you. This is the foundation for your chapter. Is that clear? Understand the dual power center, how the army and ISI control all the key decisions. The deep state of Pakistan is in control. The deep state, led by the army and the ISI, controls all the key decisions, including foreign policy, security policy, nuclear weapons program of Pakistan. Everything is controlled by the deep state. Civilian government is just a puppet. Is that clear? Then the fundamental ideological difference in the creation of India and Pakistan, the deep communal divide, and how Pakistan has always tried to compete with India and match up with India. This has only aggravated over the years, and 1971 was a crushing defeat for Pakistan, and since then it has sought revenge against India. Since it realized that India is conventionally superior, India cannot be defeated in a conventional battlefield, it started resorting to these unconventional options. It started waging an asymmetric war against India by resorting to covert proxy wars. Is that clear? So now, with this basic understanding, let's proceed with the discussion. Let's take a look at the key events that have transpired in the India-Pakistan relations since 1947. We shall go in a chronological order, and we shall look at important events, important milestones in the relationship. Let's begin from 1947. See, when India and Pakistan were granted independence through the Indian Independence Act, this act gave 3 options. Essentially, it established the Indian Dominion, it established the Pakistan Dominion, and both the dominions were being prepared for complete independence, complete self-rule and self-governance. However, the princely states, on the other hand, they were given 3 options. There were several princely states in the Indian subcontinent, at least around 600 plus princely states existed. These princely states, they either had the option to join India, or they could join Pakistan, or they could choose independence. They could remain independent and opt for independence as well. This is what the British gave us. This is what they left India with. While granting independence to the subcontinent, right, the British enacted the Indian Independence Act that established the Indian Dominion and Pakistan Dominion. These 2 dominions, as they prepared for independence, the several princely states that exist in the subcontinent, they were given the option to either opt for India or merge with Pakistan or choose independence so that they could protect their autonomy. So as India was convincing the princely states, most of them to join India, Pakistan started creating problems from the very beginning. See, after India's independence, there were quite a few princely states which were not completely happy with joining India. Similarly, there were areas which were hesitant to join Pakistan as well. For example, the Balochistan region, which we spoke about yesterday. I told you that the Baloch people, they wanted their independence. They wanted to keep the areas independent, and they refused to merge with Pakistan. Pakistan had to forcefully occupy and annex Balochistan. Similarly, in India as well, there were several princely states who were hesitant or who were completely against joining the Indian Union. Because it was understandable. These were princely states which were always autonomous. They were always a monarchy. Now they feared that if they merge with the larger Indian Union, one, they might lose their identity. Right? India is a very diverse country with different languages, customs, religions, etc. Each region, each princely state would have its own unique culture and cultural identity, and they feared losing that if they merged with the larger India. Second, it was about their political autonomy, their independence. The monarchy will lose authority. The monarchy, the kings will have to step down because they will merge with a democratic state where everybody is equal. They will lose their authority, their control, their wealth, everything. So as a result, few princely states were hesitant. For example, the kingdom of Travancore, even the warriors of Mysore at one point, they were all slightly hesitant to join the Indian Union. So these princely states had to be convinced. There were other princely states in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan as well. All right, for example, Indore, Bhopal, and others. They were all hesitant to join India because they feared losing their monarchy, they feared losing their authority. So they had to be convinced by the then Indian leaders, Nehru and Sardar Patel. India's Prime Minister and Home Minister together had to convince these princely states, offer them incentives to lure them to join the Indian Union, because it was very essential for India to build a strong union, to ensure that there's a strong union with adequate geographical territory and with adequate integration. There was no question of allowing the princely states to break away and remain independent. That would have hit at the very root of the Indian society and the Indian polity. So the first Indian government, under Nehru and Patel, they would reach out to the princely states, talk to them, convince them, offer incentives as well. Financial incentives were offered. For example, the system of privy purses were launched, where the government would provide financial incentives to the kings, to the monarchs, if they step down and merge with India, because they would be losing a part of their wealth as well. So this worked with some of the princely states. But there were others who were completely against the idea of joining India, such as Junagadh and Hyderabad. The Nawab of Junagadh and the Nizam of Hyderabad. They both were against joining India, and they both were motivated by Pakistan to opt for joining Pakistan, because the Indian Independence Act would allow that. Technically, legally speaking, the princely states had every right to either join Pakistan or remain independent as well. So Pakistan started meddling with India right from independence. See, many of them assume that Pakistan's first misadventure was in Kashmir. But even before Pakistan interfered in Kashmir, even before that, several weeks before that, it had already started meddling with India by motivating some of the princely states to join Pakistan. Pakistan was playing a role. Jinnah, the Muslim League, was playing a role in pushing the Nawab of Junagadh and the Nizam of Hyderabad to merge with Pakistan. When these demands came up, this was unacceptable to India. India rejected this because there was no reason why Junagadh or Hyderabad had to merge with Pakistan. Neither were these areas geographically contiguous. See, Junagadh is in today's Gujarat, all right? It is not on the border, it's not directly connected with Pakistan. Similarly, Hyderabad is very far away from where Pakistan is. If these princely states were allowed to merge with Pakistan, then we essentially would have large Pakistani enclaves inside India. There would be mini Pakistans everywhere. And this was something which was unacceptable to the Indian leadership. That would threaten our integrity and sovereignty. So Nehru and Patel made it very clear that at any cost, we will not allow Pakistani enclaves in the country. There's no reason why Junagadh or Hyderabad should aspire to join Pakistan. They have no inclination historically, no geographical connection, no cultural link as well. So India ensured that we would forcefully merge these territories into the Indian Union. Is that clear? India had to use force to threaten the Nawab of Junagadh and annex the region and merge this into the Indian Union. So as India applied pressure, we mobilized our armed forces. Indian forces surrounded Junagadh. It was through a limited military action that we captured Junagadh. All right? The Nawab got scared, he fled India, he ran away to Pakistan, and he was sheltered in Pakistan. So why I'm trying to highlight this is because it shows Pakistan's inclination from the very beginning to meddle with India, to create disruptions for India. It's important to understand that attitude of Pakistan towards India. So the Nawab fled Junagadh, he ran to Pakistan, and Pakistan sheltered him, whereas India surrounded Junagadh and we occupied it. We annexed and forcefully merged Junagadh into the Indian Union. But before merging Junagadh, to ensure it has legitimacy in the front of international community, we held a plebiscite. A plebiscite is a direct election. A plebiscite is a direct election where the people vote whether to join a particular country A or B or remain independent. It is held in disputed areas. In areas where there's a sovereignty dispute, plebiscite is held. It's a type of referendum, it's a direct election where people vote whether they want to join country A or country B or remain independent. So as India surrounded Junagadh and the Nawab fled, we even held a plebiscite to ensure that there was legitimacy, legal legitimacy for India's annexation of Junagadh. We held a plebiscite and all the people, the majority of them, voted in favor of India. Is that clear? Then with regard to Hyderabad, the Nizam was refusing to merge with India. Later refused to surrender. All the talks failed, the concessions, the incentives offered also failed. Finally, India had to use armed action, and India carried out Operation Polo to annex Hyderabad. This was again a military action involving our armed forces and police forces. Indian forces surrounded Hyderabad, launched an attack against the Nizam and his kingdom, and very quickly defeated the Nizam and occupied Hyderabad, thus merging Hyderabad into the Indian Union. Here as well, majority of the people were supportive. Majority of the people supported merger with India because they always felt connected with India. These regions were very integral to the Indian Union. So as soon as India annexed these areas, India had tremendous support from the locals, and that's how Junagadh and Hyderabad became part of the Indian territory. All right. So Pakistan would extend this behavior of meddling in India's internal issues and extend this into Kashmir as well. Very soon, it would repeat the same behavior in Kashmir. See, at this point, Jammu and Kashmir, and then Ladakh. All right. These were two strategically vital regions as far as India and Pakistan were concerned. J&K was one princely state, and Ladakh was another princely state. It was ruled by the Dogra dynasty, by Raja Hari Singh. Raja Hari Singh of the Dogra dynasty was the ruler of Jammu and Kashmir. So he oversaw a kingdom which was quite unique. The Jammu region was Hindu dominated, whereas Kashmir region was Muslim dominated. And the neighboring Ladakh region was Buddhist dominated. Now these territories were strategically vital because this would be a connection between India, Pakistan on one side, China and Central Asia on the other side. These territories were part of the ancient Silk Route. They were part of the ancient trading route. Both Kashmir and Ladakh and the extension of these areas, Gilgit-Baltistan, all these areas have been historically important, culturally important. They have been the connection between parts of India, today's Pakistan, Afghanistan, China's Xinjiang, Central Asia. All these regions have been connected through Kashmir and Ladakh. They've been part of the ancient Silk Route through which trade and exchange of culture has taken place since ancient and medieval times. So obviously, J&K and Ladakh both had strategic significance. With regard to their location, both had a lot of strategic significance. Plus, obviously, the region was blessed with immense resources, right? So India would first convince Ladakh to merge with the Indian Union. Ladakh would accept the merger. But Raja Hari Singh was hesitant. Raja Hari Singh was one concerned about his own authority. He was concerned about losing the monarchy, losing the political status. Plus, he was concerned about his unique population, his citizens. Jammu was Hindu-dominated, Kashmir was Muslim-dominated. And even though India was a secular country, it was a concern for many rulers that India was eventually a Hindu state, a Hindu majority state at least. Majority of the population were Hindus. So Raja Hari Singh weighed his options and he actually chose independence. keeping his own personal interests plus the interest of his people in mind, he opted for independence as per the Indian Independence Act. He decided not to merge with India, not to merge with Pakistan. So technically, legally speaking, for a short while, J&K was an independent country. It was neither part of India, neither part of, nor part of Pakistan. Is that clear? Now, please don't get offended by what I'm saying. Please hear me out. For a short period, technically speaking, J&K was independent because the legitimate ruler of J&K, Raja Hari Singh, had opted for independence. All right, he had made the choice. So technically speaking, for this short period, J&K would become an independent nation. But very quickly, Pakistan would capitalize on the opportunity and it launched a military operation called Operation Gulmarg to capture Kashmir for itself. Operation Gulmarg was a Pakistani military operation under which it supported a tribal invasion of Kashmir. The Pakistani army would support several tribal groups from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and parts of today's POK and Gilgit-Baltistan. It would support them. And along with the support of Pakistani army, there was an invasion against Jammu and Kashmir. A Pakistani invasion which was engineered, planned and executed by the Pakistani state. This military operation to capture Kashmir by force was called Operation Gulmarg. So Pakistan tried to project this as a local insurgency, as if the local tribes were looking to capture the region and take it away and to merge it with Pakistan. But in reality, it was backed by the Pakistani army. Pakistani army soldiers were part of this tribal invading force. The tribals were only used to conceal the Pakistani army and to give legitimacy to this insurgency. So this invasion, which was led by Pakistani army, immediately threatened Jammu and Kashmir. There was no way Raja Hari Singh could have stood up because Pakistan was a much more powerful state, and it was a given fact that J&K would fall very quickly into the hands of Pakistan. The Pakistani invaders very quickly captured a lot of territory in Jammu and Kashmir, and this put Raja Hari Singh under a lot of pressure. It was under these difficult circumstances when Raja Hari Singh had no other choice that he sought India's help. He asked for India's help to shield J&K and his people against the Pakistani invasion. Because Raja Hari Singh knew the fate, he knew what would happen if Pakistan were to occupy J&K. Because before this, during partition, massive communal violence and atrocities had been committed, especially in Punjab, between all the three communities, between Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. Massive communal violence had already taken place in Punjab during partition. All right. So Raja Hari Singh knew what would happen if Pakistan were to capture J&K. By this time, he knew that Pakistan was becoming a theological state. It had adopted a state religion. It had adopted a rigid form of religion, and it was targeting religious minorities. It had driven out all the Sikhs, Hindus, Buddhists, even Muslims were targeted in Pakistan. Raja Hari Singh knew that his people have no future if Pakistan captures the region. So he approached India asking for help, and India agreed to help under one simple condition, that J&K has to merge with India. Because India saw J&K strategically vital as well. So this force pushed Raja Hari Singh to sign the Instrument of Accession, thus formally merging J&K with the Union of India. Now this is legally valid. This is a legally valid merger of a princely state which had opted for independence into the Indian Union. Because the then legitimate ruler, Raja Hari Singh, was still the ruler. All right? Raja Hari Singh was still the legitimate authority. So he signed the Instrument of Accession, thus merging J&K into the Indian Union, and hence J&K became an integral part of the Indian Union. So that is why today, when we claim that the whole state of J&K belongs to India as it existed in 1947, India is legally correct. We are technically correct. We are on solid legal ground because Raja Hari Singh, the then legitimate ruler, signed the merger of the whole state of J&K with India. So whatever Pakistan occupied during this invasion under Operation Gulmarg, that is Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, these areas do not have legal validity. This is the position India has taken. The Pakistan occupied areas today, POK and Gilgit-Baltistan, they have no legal legitimacy because the ruler, the legitimate authority, Raja Hari Singh, merged the whole state with India, right? Thus completing the unification, the accession of J&K with the Indian Union. So as Raja Hari Singh merged with India, immediately India went to war with Pakistan, thus triggering the first India-Pakistan war. The then Indian government led by Nehru and Patel declared war against Pakistan, and Indian troops were deployed to push back against the Pakistani invasion. The Indian troops, which were mobilized very quickly, they managed to push back the Pakistani intruders, and we retook many of the captured areas. In fact, this tribal invasion had come quite close to Jammu. Large parts of Kashmir had already been captured, including Gilgit-Baltistan. So India had to push back. We retook some of the captured areas, and then India called for a ceasefire. India called for a ceasefire to bring the war to an end. And we took the matter to the United Nations for a mediated settlement. Is that clear? India called for an end to the war. After pushing Pakistan back and recapturing some of the areas, we called for a ceasefire. We called for an end to the conflict, a temporary halt, so that we could curb any further violence and losses on both the sides. And we took the matter to the UN, hoping that UN would mediate and work out a settlement between the two countries. Now, this decision of Prime Minister Nehru has been heavily criticized. Right? There's a lot of criticism against this decision. Many argue that it was a strategic blunder to call for a ceasefire and to take the matter to the UN. The critics argue that India should have continued the war until we retook all the areas and pushed Pakistan back entirely. And we shouldn't have trusted the UN at the very first place. However, if you look at the circumstances of that time, you see, you need to look at that context. Right? You need to go back to 1947. Today, it's easy to look back in retrospect and say, okay, this should have happened, this shouldn't have happened. But if you go back and evaluate what happened in 1947, the circumstances were slightly different. India and Pakistan both were new countries. They were struggling. Right? The colonial rule had destroyed the countries. Our economies had been devastated. They had looted our resources, destroyed our industries, and there were massive socio-economic problems both in India and Pakistan. Now, even if you ignore Pakistan's problems, considering it's not our problems, India itself was dealing with massive challenges at that point of time. And the last thing we wanted was a war with a neighbor. Is that clear? Because in Northeast India, Naga insurgency had already broken out. Several regions in Northeast India were hesitant to merge with the Indian Union, and the Indian government was struggling to form a strong Indian Union. It was negotiating with various princely states, convincing them, giving them incentives, forcing them, and capturing some areas to create a strong Indian Union. The Naga groups had rebelled and they declared independence by then, and Naga insurgency had started in Northeast India. Plus, the country was dealing with large-scale poverty. We had famines in the country. There was no food available in most parts of the country. People were dying without food. Right? There was no education, no healthcare. The basic essentials weren't present in the country. This was a massive challenge, a socio-economic challenge for the country. And wars will only drain your resources. Right? It's easy to sit at the comfort of your home, sit in offices, debate, and say that we should fight wars, we should capture all the territories. It's very easy to make those arguments. But wars are brutal. It leaves behind a devastating impact that will last centuries. Right? The human cost of war is something that can't be measured. Only those who go through the suffering know what happens. Right? For you and me, it's easy to sit here and say we should go to war and protect our interests. But war should always be the last resort and the last option. So India at that point was a country which was founded on the principles of non-violence. We had just gained independence through a non-violent independent struggle. Right? We placed faith in the international community. We were committed to democratic Gandhian principles. And we also hoped that the new body, the UN, United Nations, had just been set up in 1945 after the Second World War. India was a founding member of the UN. We played a key role in establishing the UN. So India placed faith in this body. India was by that time being seen as a large democratic nation. So India was expected to play that role, and we did place that faith in the UN. So hoping that UN would fairly resolve the issue, we took the matter to the UN, and yes, it did turn out to be a blunder later. So in retrospect, yes, you can criticize the decision, but in the context, in the real time when the events were happening, it seemed like an appropriate solution. Instead of dragging the war, ending the war seemed like a better option. And also, please understand, our armed capabilities were very, very limited. The Indian army was not what it is today, right? Both Indian army and even the Pakistani armed forces, they lacked all the capabilities. They were very rudimentary, loosely built forces that the British had left behind. And you're talking about Jammu and Kashmir, where the geography is very complex, the terrain is extremely hostile. You have mountainous areas, high altitude regions, snow-capped areas. Even today, it is difficult to deploy troops in J&K near the border areas. Imagine how difficult it was in 1947, right? Mobilizing the troops, providing them logistics, supplying them was a nightmare. It's a nightmare even today. And you can imagine what the situation was in 1947. So there was no question of continuing the war. We would have paid a very heavy price. And it seemed like a logical step to call for a ceasefire, to work out a negotiated settlement, and involve the UN to mediate the settlement. All right, you have to look at the limitations of our armed forces as well. Even if we had continued the war, there was no guarantee we would recapture all the areas. Right? This is an accepted reality. So the problem for India here was that the UN, especially within the Security Council, India wouldn't get fair treatment, especially from the UK, and to an extent from the US as well. The Western countries from the very beginning had started inclining towards Pakistan as compared to India. This is something that can be noticed in the India-Pakistan relationship. From the beginning, Pakistan has been closer to the Western countries, and Western powers like UK and US, they have favored Pakistan. UK obviously had a grudge against India, right? It was India which led the freedom struggle, which broke the British colonies. So when UK granted independence, it had a vested interest to ensure that India wouldn't thrive, to not allow India to grow and mature and flourish. And UK had a vested interest to back Pakistan and support Pakistan, because of course Pakistan was its creation. It was a British creation, right? Because Pakistan was created through a communal division by dividing the Indian subcontinent on communal religious lines, and a religious state was created, and this was a brainchild of the British Empire. So they obviously liked Pakistan, liked everything about Pakistan, and from the very beginning, Western countries had this inclination towards Pakistan. Also, Pakistan aligned with the Western countries during the Cold War, right? So at the UN, we saw that these countries were not being neutral, they were not being honest. So the faith we placed in the UN was misplaced. That's when India would realize, yes, this was a mistake, it was a blunder to take the matter to the UN. But initially, we did expect UK, US, or the UN to behave in a neutral manner, because UN was supposed to do that. We took that leap of faith, and this leap of faith was betrayed by the Western countries. So as India couldn't expect a fair settlement, then India started doubting the efficacy of the UN. We started doubting the very role of the UN, and that's when we decided that we should never involve third party in our conflicts. All right, since then we were trying, since 1948-49, India kept trying to keep the UN and the Western countries out of the Kashmir conflict. All right, we finally achieved this in 1971 when India broke Pakistan and forced Pakistan to sign the Shimla Agreement. When Pakistan signed the Shimla Agreement, it accepted the Kashmir conflict is a bilateral issue. Right, we renamed the ceasefire line. This was the ceasefire line. All right, the ceasefire line held in 1947-48. It was formally accepted in 1949 under the Karachi Agreement. This had become the de facto border in Kashmir. All right, the UN was monitoring it. UN had appointed a military observer group to monitor the ceasefire. The UN had given itself a role. And under the UN settlement, both sides had promised to hold a plebiscite. This is what the UN had worked out. The UN upheld the ceasefire. It urged both India and Pakistan to respect the ceasefire, declared the ceasefire line as a temporary boundary, and pushed India and Pakistan to hold a plebiscite. India and Pakistan promised. They committed to the UN that they are going to hold a plebiscite on both sides of Kashmir to allow the people to choose, to let the people decide whether they want to merge with India or Pakistan or remain independent. All three options were supposed to be given. This ceasefire line was formalized under the Karachi Agreement, and the UN deployed a military observer group to monitor the ceasefire. All right? But India was never comfortable with this arrangement. We quickly realized that UN is ineffective and cannot be trusted for a fair settlement in such conflicts. And India saw that Pakistan was not being honest, especially when it came to holding a plebiscite. Pakistan was not being honest here. Pakistan was trying to change the demography of POK. Before holding the promised elections, Pakistan was trying to bring people from other parts of the country, from Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and it was forcefully settling the population in POK. So that eventually when the plebiscite is held, the majority of the population would vote in favor of Pakistan. It was trying to alter the electorate itself, right? So India saw that Pakistan was changing the demography. It was bringing people from other parts of the country and settling them deliberately in large numbers to swing the election, to manipulate the election. So India said, we are never going to hold a plebiscite. We will not hold a plebiscite because there's no point. Pakistan has made irreparable damage. It has altered the demography of POK. It has meddled in the entire process. There is no way this election will be fair and transparent. So India also said we will never hold a plebiscite. So this promised plebiscite was never held by both India and Pakistan. Is that clear? That's one reason why many people in Jammu and Kashmir, they felt let down, they felt betrayed. Because this had been promised by both the countries. At least there were sections in J&K which were supporting independence. Because of the unique culture and identity of people of J&K, there were sections who were still aligned with Raja Hari Singh's idea of keeping J&K independent. So those who still saw that J&K should be independent, not join either India or Pakistan, they felt let down because the promised plebiscite was never held by both the countries. And honestly, this was not India's fault. All right, this fault lies with Pakistan. It was Pakistan which tried to manipulate the demography. It tried to swing the elections in its favor. So India saw what was happening. It was unfair, and India called off this commitment. We said we will never hold a plebiscite. So since then, this dispute remains. It remains the biggest pressing issue in the relationship. That is the Kashmir issue. This is the beginning of the Kashmir issue. All right. So in 1971, which we have studied in detail, when India liberated Bangladesh, when India broke Pakistan into two parts, and we made Pakistan sign the Shimla Agreement, we made Pakistan accept that the ceasefire line will be renamed as Line of Control, as LOC. I hope you remember this. We had discussed this in detail under India-Bangladesh chapter. I explained the origin of LOC, the line of control. We renamed the ceasefire line as Line of Control under Shimla Agreement. so that we could remove the role of the UN. Because UN appointed a military observer group to monitor the ceasefire line under Karachi Agreement. So if there is no ceasefire line, if both India and Pakistan accept, if both countries under their sovereign powers, if they accept line of control instead of ceasefire line, right, which is just a change of name, then UN's role will automatically get removed. Legally, technically, UN will have no role. That is what India did to the Shimla Agreement. The same ceasefire line was renamed by India and Pakistan as LOC or line of control under Shimla Agreement. That is why Shimla Agreement is so important. All right. So Pakistan also accepted the legitimacy of LOC. It's the same line. The positions have not changed. Whatever positions India Pakistan held when the 1947 war came to an end, the same positions are held even today. Back then it was called ceasefire line, monitored by the UN. It was having formal status under Karachi Agreement. So we renamed this line as line of control under Shimla Agreement. Just the name was changed. And by doing this, India engineered a master stroke. It was a diplomatic master stroke because we removed the UN from the Kashmir issue. We ensured UN has no role to play because legally there is no ceasefire line anymore. The ceasefire line died in 1971. It became line of control. So if there is no ceasefire line, what will the UN monitor, right? So India has eliminated third-party involvement, and since 1971, we have made it clear the Kashmir issue is a bilateral issue. It's a bilateral dispute which only India and Pakistan have to resolve between themselves, and there is no scope for any kind of third-party involvement. This is the position India has firmly taken. Is that clear? It's a very, very important point. We have removed the role of the UN. We didn't want any Western interference. Through the UN, United Kingdom and US were interfering. They were siding with Pakistan. Forever, India removed this possibility by saying that there is no third-party involvement in Kashmir conflict. We said Kashmir is a bilateral issue and made Pakistan accept this position. So today also we insist that no other country, no other organization has a role in Kashmir conflict. If the issue has to be ever resolved, it should be resolved only between India and Pakistan. Both should talk to each other and resolve the issue. All right? These are some very, very important points related to the Kashmir conflict. I hope it's clear. Now let's move to the next topic and talk about the Indus Water Treaty of 1960. Another important topic for your exams. According to me, this topic is very, very important for your prelims. It is relevant for your mains 1960. Another important topic for your exams. According to me, this position. So today also we insist that no other country, no other organization has a role in Kashmir conflict. If the issue has to be ever resolved, it should be resolved only between India and Pakistan. Both should talk to each other and resolve the issue. All right? These are some very, very important points related to the Kashmir conflict. I hope it's clear. Now let's move to the next topic and talk about the Indus Water Treaty of 1960. Another important topic for your exams. According to me, this topic is very, very important for your prelims. It is relevant for your mains as well. So let's understand what is the Indus Water Treaty, why was it necessary, what are the terms of the treaty, and what is the current status. See, the Indus River is a major river system which is shared between India and Pakistan. The large part of the river system originates here in Tibet. It flows down into India, that is Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and flows down further into Pakistan. And eventually, these rivers, they drain into the Arabian Sea. The Indus River system consists of around 6 major rivers. They all flow from Tibet towards India, towards Pakistan, and eventually drain into the Arabian Sea. This is the course of the Indus River system. It's a very huge drainage basin. It's a very large drainage area, and it includes 6 major river systems, including the Indus, the Jhelum, Chenab, and Ravi, Beas, and Satluj. These are the 6 major rivers of the Indus system. These rivers are very crucial for both India and Pakistan. Both are heavily dependent on these rivers, and hence it was essential to decide upon sharing of these waters. All right. So Pakistan raised the request. Pakistan wanted to resolve this issue, resolve the water sharing issue, because Pakistan was worried. It had concerns because it was a lower riparian state. Pakistan is located in the downstream. India is in the upstream area. India is the upper riparian. Right? The rivers are flowing from India to Pakistan. So naturally, India has greater control over the rivers. So if we want, we can block the flow of the water. We can divert the rivers as well. Thus, it could lead to water shortage in Pakistan. So Pakistan always had this concern. It had this fear because we already had a hostile relationship. We had fought a war over the Kashmir dispute. So Pakistan approached India asking for clarity on water sharing regarding the Indus River system, and we agreed to negotiate, and we agreed for a treaty out of goodwill. India was looking to send out a goodwill message. It had been almost 10, 13 years since the war, since everything had been settled. So we wanted to reach out to Pakistan as well, rebuild a relationship, and open out to Pakistan, building a friendly, possible relationship. So as a goodwill gesture, India agreed to negotiations which were mediated by the World Bank. Please note down this point. It's very important. The Indus Water Treaty was mediated between India and Pakistan by the World Bank. All right. So the final agreement was accepted by both the sides, and Indus Water Treaty came into being from 1960. Now let's see what the Indus Water Treaty is all about. The first important provision that you need to remember is that the treaty has divided the Indus basin into western and eastern rivers. Roughly, the drainage basin has been divided. Western rivers and eastern rivers have been identified. Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab have been identified as the western rivers. All right. And Ravi, Beas, and Satluj, they have been identified under the treaty as the eastern rivers. This is a very, very important point. The drainage basin has been divided into western rivers and eastern rivers. With regard to western rivers, Pakistan has been allocated a higher share and a greater control. Is that clear? See, you need not remember the specific allocation. You need not remember and by heart the exact volume of water which has been allocated. Not necessary. UPSC does not pay much attention to such statistics. You should understand in what way, in what manner has the waters been divided. If you look at the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, it is Pakistan which has been given greater control and a greater share. India has been given limited control over western rivers. Is that clear? India can use the waters for non-consumptive purposes. India can build run-of-the-mill projects. Run-of-the-mill projects are those projects which do not divert the water. So India cannot divert the rivers. There's no diversion allowed. No storage beyond a certain point. These restrictions are there on India, but we have the freedom to build run-of-the-mill projects such as hydro projects. India can take up hydropower projects. We can build a dam to generate electricity. A small share has been allocated to India for irrigation and drinking purposes as well, but majority of the share has been given to Pakistan. So we can't control the flow of the rivers. We can only build run-of-the-mill projects which don't block the water permanently, which don't divert the water permanently. We can't alter the course of the river. All right, that's why it's only non-consumptive usage for India with limited restrictions. So we can build hydro projects, we can generate electricity, use the rivers for navigation. We even have limited fisheries rights as well. These basic rights exist for India, but we can't build any large mega project to hold the water and divert it for irrigation or for drinking purposes. All right, only a small share has been given to India, a larger share has been allocated to Pakistan. Why? Because these rivers are more vital for Pakistan as compared to India. So India has firmly respected and abided by the terms of this treaty. Even though it benefits Pakistan to an extent, we have accepted the terms and we have followed this very strictly, and we have only built run-of-the-mill projects on the western rivers, on Jhelum, Chenab, and some of the smaller tributaries here. We have built only run-of-the-mill projects. We have never violated the terms of the treaty. We have built projects such as the Bagihar project, the Kishan Ganga hydropower project. We have taken up recently the Ratle hydropower project and many others. These are some important Indian hydropower projects on the western rivers. Is that clear? The Bagihar, Kishan Ganga, and Ratle projects, these are some important hydropower projects. All these projects planned by India, they are in line with the terms of Indus Treaty. We have informed Pakistan, we have shared all the data. We have designed the project in such a way that will not breach the terms of the treaty. We don't plan to divert the waters. We don't plan to consume the water ourselves. We only plan to generate hydroelectricity and make limited use of the waters as prescribed under the treaty. The rest of the waters will be allowed to flow to Pakistan. And despite this, Pakistan keeps creating problems for India. This has become a regular Pakistani behavior. Even though India has respected and abided by the treaty, we have never for once broken the treaty. Even with regard to these mega projects, we have never broken the terms of the treaty. And yet, Pakistan has deliberately picked issues. It has filed cases against India at International Court of Justice and Permanent Court of Arbitration, challenging the Indian projects. This has been a deliberate strategy to derail Indian projects in Jammu and Kashmir. Because Pakistan does not want J&K to develop. It wants J&K to remain backward so that people have a resentment. It wants the economy of J&K to suffer so that people never, have inclination to join India, to favor India. This has been a Pakistani strategy to keep J&K backward, to derail any development initiatives, and it has tried to block Indian projects by filing cases at ICJ and PCA. These are international judicial organs, all right, and it has taken India to court over these projects. And in all these cases, India has won. India has won all these cases because even ICJ and sometimes PCA, they have recognized that India is following the terms of the treaty. India has never violated or breached the treaty. This has been recognized by these judicial bodies as well. Pakistan has been deliberately doing this just to block the project, delay the project, and to derail the Indian initiatives. On the other hand, if you look at the eastern rivers, a higher share of eastern rivers and the complete control of the eastern rivers has been vested with India. India has a greater control, whereas Pakistan has been given a limited share over eastern rivers. These eastern rivers are the lifeline of northern and northwestern India. The Ravi, Beas, and Satluj, they are extremely crucial in Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, parts of Delhi, NCR, parts of J&K as well. These waters are absolutely crucial for India. Our green revolution was powered through these rivers. Agriculture in Punjab and Haryana especially is entirely dependent on the Ravi, Beas, and Satluj. Right? It's a lifeline of the farmers, the rural agrarian economy in Punjab and Haryana. So India has a greater control. We have a higher share allocated. Here we can build large water management projects. We don't have restrictions here. We can build large mega dams to store and even divert the water. India can do this. All right, we can provide for irrigation and all other forms of consumptive usage. That is for drinking water, for industrial consumption, right? To facilitate navigation, fisheries, etc. So all these usages can be exercised by India, and India has greater rights on the eastern rivers. But a share has been given to Pakistan as well. So this share has to be allowed by India to flow into Pakistan. All right, so Pakistan also gets a part of the eastern rivers, but a small share. So this is how the Indus Water Treaty has provided a structured mechanism to share these important waters between India and Pakistan. Under this, both the countries have set up Indus Water Commissions. All right, they've appointed Indus Water Commissioners as well, and they meet every year at the start of the year. Every year, the Indus Water Commissioners, who are none other than the water secretaries from the respective countries, they meet each other every year to exchange data, to inform each other as to how they are following the treaty and abiding by the provisions of the treaty. They share any relevant data with each other to keep the other side informed about their projects, how they are using the waters, right? To deal with flood management, right? To discuss all these issues, to discuss disasters, the impact of climate change. Because Pakistan has been recently suffering. Just last year, Pakistan was hit by devastating floods in the Indus Basin, right? It's caused massive damage to Pakistan. So managing the flood waters and how both sides will uphold the treaty, something that we should discuss and share with each other. So we have the Indus Water Commission from both the sides, and the respective commissioners, they meet every year to exchange this information and data. So India has firmly stuck by the treaty, but Pakistan has created problems. Without reason, it has blamed India. It has taken Indian projects to international courts. It has tried to derail the Indian projects. So that shows Pakistan's behavior and obsession with India to the extent that Pakistan can go to create problems for India. Now, these are the various points that are needed for your prelims. But with regard to mains, there's one important argument being made recently that should India weaponize Indus Water Treaty? This is a question which has come up in the last couple of decades. Since at least 1990s, there has been a question raised in India. Why should we respect the treaty? If Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism against India, if it is repeatedly attacking India, destabilizing India, why should India uphold this bargain? So there have been debates within the Indian government, within our strategic community, within the parliament as well, in the media, in the think tanks, among strategic experts, and in general amongst the public, that why should India uphold this agreement? This agreement is not benefiting India, it's benefiting Pakistan. It's for the benefit of Pakistan that we agree to this agreement. So there has been a question raised that should India weaponize Indus Water Treaty? Should we use this as a geopolitical leverage to punish Pakistan for sponsoring terrorism? This question came up recently, especially after Uri attacks and Pulwama terror attacks. There was a call from various sections that India should revisit the treaty and we should consider pulling out from the treaty, which puts Pakistan under pressure. Because Pakistan is a lower riparian. If India pulls out, it creates uncertainty, and it is Pakistan which will get affected, not India. So there is an argument that we should use this to put pressure on Pakistan as it keeps backing terrorism against India. But subsequent governments have chosen against it. The government of India has decided to not weaponize water. We have decided to not play geopolitics with civilians. Because if India were to pull out, and if India were to use the waters as it wants, it would not only increase tensions with Pakistan, but it would affect the people of Pakistan as well. And for us, the problem is not the citizens or the civilians of Pakistan. Our problem is with the deep state. It's with the army, the ISI, the Pakistani government. Right? It's very important to distinguish between this. The state and the people are always different. Right? So India does not want to weaponize water. It's a violation of human rights as well. Any uncertainty here would affect the people of Pakistan, and also we are aware that it will benefit the terrorist outfits. It will benefit the ISI, because these terror groups, they already have a propaganda against India. Terror leaders like Hafiz Saeed, Masood Azhar, these terrorists, whenever they conduct public rallies against India, they blame India for water terrorism. Whenever there are floods in Pakistan or droughts in Pakistan, they blame it on India. They say India is causing this. India is engineering, creating the floods and droughts by controlling the waters of the Indus. They accuse India of water terrorism. By highlighting this, they recruit the youth. They brainwash the youth who are not well aware of these issues. They actually believe it's true, and they get recruited into these terror organizations, thus perpetuating terrorism against India for a long period. So imagine if India were actually to weaponize water and break the treaty, right? These groups will get further mileage. They will actually have a valid stand to show that India is misusing water, playing geopolitics with water, and it could recruit more into the terror organizations. Right? This would increase tensions as well, which is not in our interest. And more importantly, it's a question of human rights. So basic human rights, we don't want to play politics over this. Plus, don't forget, this is not just about India, Pakistan. It's much beyond that. It's about international law. It's about respecting international rules. Right? This issue is much beyond India and Pakistan. India is firmly committed to international law. It's a very strong commitment that India has made. We always uphold and protect international rules. If India were to unilaterally quit without a valid argument, then it will send out the wrong message to the international community. It will show that India breaks international laws and commitments. We break it whenever we want. We don't honor the commitments we have made. So that is a wrong image that you'll send out. So because of all these considerations, subsequent governments have decided to not quit the treaty as of now. Irrespective of the Prime Minister or the ruling party, be it Prime Minister Vajpayee, Narasimha Rao, Manmohan Singh or Modi, be it Congress or BJP or coalition government, they've all decided that it's better for India to uphold the Indus Water Treaty. If you compare the risks, the pros and cons, the advantages of continuing with the treaty is better compared to the drawbacks. Right? It's a cost-benefit analysis, and it indicates that India stands to benefit by being part of the treaty. Our larger, broader interests are protected. By helping Pakistan will help ourselves. Right? A stable Pakistan is in our interest. The last thing we want is any large-scale destabilization of Pakistan. So a very mature decision has been taken by India to respect the treaty, continue with it for the time being. All right, as of now, there's no indication that the government might quit. Recently, however, we have issued a notice. We have issued a notice to Pakistan indicating we want a revision in the treaty. All right, just a few weeks back, when Indus Water Commissioners met, India gave a notice to Pakistan saying we want to revise the treaty. There are some changes that we need. So that is one recent development, but there's no indication that we're going to quit the treaty altogether. All right, so this is what you should know about this important topic. It's very important for your mains. UPSC could ask you, what is the Indus Water Treaty? Explain the provisions. Should India weaponize Indus Water Treaty to punish Pakistan for sponsoring terrorism? Such an analytical question can come. All right, so that is why you have to keep in touch with current affairs. Going forward, this might change. Tomorrow, the Indian government might change its decision. Tomorrow, if there is another massive attack against India, if there is tremendous public pressure, the government might very well withdraw from the treaty. Right? So be in touch with current affairs, especially with regard to this topic. It's very important for your prelims and mains. Next, 1965, the second India-Pakistan war. The second India-Pakistan conflict was also about Kashmir. Is that clear? And as expected, it was Pakistan which was the aggressor again. Pakistan was the aggressor. It made a second attempt to capture Kashmir from India by launching a military operation known as Operation Gibraltar. This was the second military attempt of Pakistan to illegally capture Kashmir from India. The first operation was Operation Gulmarg in 1947. The second operation was Operation Gibraltar, a Pakistani army attempt to change the status quo at the line of control, at the ceasefire line, and to capture the Kashmir territory. This pushed India to counter the Pakistani attack, and a full-fledged war broke out. See, in 1947, the war was largely limited to Jammu and Kashmir. But in 65, when the war broke out, it spread to Punjab, Rajasthan, and Gujarat borders as well. So along the entire stretch of India-Pakistan border, the conflict had broken out, thus escalating the tensions very quickly. This war was quickly brought to an end, and many experts see it as a stalemate. Many neutral experts, they see that the war ended as a stalemate. Neither side won the war. But both India and Pakistan claimed victory in the war. All right? Both India and Pakistan claimed victory, but a neutral assessment shows that it was more of a stalemate. We just maintained status quo. Because, see, most conflicts, you don't have clear-cut results. It's not clear as to who has won the war or who has gained an advantage. Sometimes both sides will make some changes and they'll claim that they have won the conflict. Look at the Russia-Ukraine war. It's dragging on. It's a stalemate. Right? With small changes, let's say Russia might claim victory. If Ukraine pushes back Russia, right, even with small changes, Ukraine will also claim victory. So usually wars are a stalemate. They don't give you conclusive results. But however, you need to understand that we did repulse the Pakistani attack. India did protect its territory. We pushed back the Pakistani invasion. We defeated Pakistani design. And by that standard, it was a victory for India. So on that ground, it is seen as a victory for India. And we brought this war to an end through a negotiated settlement at Tashkent in Uzbekistan. Right? It's in Central Asia. Tashkent is the capital of a Central Asian country, that's Uzbekistan. Back then, it was part of the Soviet Union. It was Soviet territory. Soviet Union was quite friendly towards India during the Cold War period, even though India was non-aligned. We hadn't joined either the US bloc or the Soviet power bloc. We were neutral, we were non-aligned. And yet Soviet Union was quite close to India. It played a neutral mediating role. It brought India, Pakistan to the negotiating table and worked out a settlement to bring this war to an end. This is the Tashkent Agreement that was signed in the then Soviet Union, that is in Uzbekistan, by the then Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, right, and his Pakistani counterpart. So with the signing of the Tashkent Agreement, the 1965 war was brought to an end. Pakistan's designs were defeated. Pakistan couldn't capture Kashmir. We pushed Pakistan back. We protected our territories. We didn't lose any territory. And thus India claims victory in the war. So this was the second conflict. And then came the third conflict, the mega war of 1971. Of course, I'm not going to discuss this again because we've already covered it in detail under India-Bangladesh relations. I've explained the crisis in East Pakistan and how India directly played a role in the liberation movement of Bangladesh, how we enabled Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, how we supported Mukti Bahini and liberated the country by fighting a war against Pakistan. It was a conclusive defeat for Pakistan. It surrendered officially and we made Pakistan sign the Shimla Agreement. We released all the Pakistani prisoners of war and we made Pakistan commit to not wage a covert war, to not destabilize India. We made Pakistan commit to recognize the LOC, the line of control, which was the earlier ceasefire line. We made Pakistan commit that Kashmir issue will be a bilateral issue without any third-party involvement. So all these changes happened in 1971, which was a massive, decisive victory for India. Is that clear? Then came 1984. And this is related to the Siachen dispute. The Siachen dispute is one of the minor disputes that we have. And this is something that you need to understand in detail. You need to know about Operation Meghdoot and the Siachen dispute. So let me explain this. Let us jump a few slides ahead because I have added a detailed map of the Siachen region to help you understand what the Siachen dispute is all about. So here, you're looking at the map of the Siachen region. This is the Siachen Glacier. This triangular shaped area. This is the Siachen Glacier, right? It's a very high altitude region. It's a high altitude region with extreme temperatures and extreme weather conditions. The temperature here drops to as low as -40, -45 degrees Celsius. The terrain, the climate, the weather here is inhospitable. It is not suited for human habitation, right? For humans to be deployed here, it requires special training, special clothing, special gear, right? Otherwise, humans cannot survive. Life form cannot survive in this extreme climatic and weather conditions. It's essentially a barren land. It's a cold desert. It is surrounded by Ladakh. This is Ladakh here. There are two important rivers that flow down from the Siachen Glacier. You have the Nubra River, which merges here with the Shok River. It's part of the Indus Basin itself. The Nubra and Shok River, they're present here in Ladakh. They're part of the Indus Basin. Then you can see the line of control, this red line. I'm highlighting it in blue. This is the line of control, the LOC. All right, the temporary de facto border between India and Pakistan. The LOC ends over here. Please note down this location. At the southern tip of Siachen Glacier, this is where you have the last point of LOC, the northernmost point, which is called point NJ9842. Please note down this location. It's very, very important. Point NJ9842. This is the last point of LOC. The northernmost point, this is where LOC comes to an end. This is the last point of our temporary border in Kashmir. After this, the border has not been demarcated. The whole Siachen region is disputed. There's no clear agreement as to where the border lies. So this is the last point of the LOC, the northernmost point, and it's located right below the Siachen Glacier. All right. Next, this is POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir. You can see the Saltoro Ridge, which is the western boundary of the Siachen Glacier. Currently, this line is held by India. This whole triangular region you're seeing is captured by India. India has occupied the Siachen Glacier. This is the westernmost line that we occupy. This line is the Saltoro Ridge, which is dominated by Indian troops. We occupy the higher altitude areas, the vantage points, whereas Pakistan is present in the lower altitudes. You can see the Baltoro Glacier towards the Gilgit-Baltistan region. And you can see the Shaksgam Valley, which Pakistan has given away. Pakistan has leased this part of Indian territory to China in 1963. Is that clear? Shaksgam Valley is actually Indian territory. It's very much part of Gilgit-Baltistan region. Pakistan, which is an illegal occupation of these areas, gave away a part of Indian territory. It leased and gifted Shaksgam Valley to China in 1963 by signing a boundary agreement. China and Pakistan, they became very close friends after the 1962 war. After China fought the war with India, by then Pakistan had already fought the 47 war with India. So naturally, enemy's enemy is a friend. So for both China, Pakistan, India was their enemy. India was their common hostile threat. So they both came together, formed a nexus. And they signed a boundary agreement settling their borders, through which Pakistan leased and gave away Shaksgam Valley to China. Today, China has access and control over the strategic Shaksgam Valley. It can access Shaksgam Valley from Xinjiang province. From Xinjiang, it has access into Shaksgam Valley region. And it has even deployed the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, in the name of building infrastructure projects. Is that clear? Chinese troops, the PLA troops are deployed over here in Shaksgam Valley, and they are involved in constructing road and railway lines as part of China's infrastructure projects in Pakistan. All right. Now, this is a very controversial area because Chinese projects are passing through territory claimed by India. Shaksgam Valley should be part of Indian territory, according to our claims. It's part of Gilgit-Baltistan, part of the erstwhile kingdom of J&K or Jammu and Kashmir. But China has interfered, it has meddled here by leasing the Shaksgam Valley from Pakistan and by deploying troops here and by constructing projects. It has invested billions of dollars in these projects, thus giving China itself a role in the Kashmir issue. Indirectly, China becomes a party here because of its economic investments. That is what concerns India. That is what bothers India. So Siachen Glacier is extremely crucial as it is surrounded by these areas. It is surrounded by Shaksgam Valley, Baltoro Glacier, the Saltoro Ridge, line of control, and towards the other side, over here, this is Aksai Chin. This here, next to Siachen Glacier is Aksai Chin, which has been captured by China. It's under the illegal occupation of China. China has occupied Indian territory in Ladakh. in the Ladakh sector. It's captured Aksai from India, and that's where it is located. So Siachen is located in a strategically vital location, as you can see in this map. It's very clear, very evident that Siachen has a very, very important location. Now here, before 1984, both the sides had an understanding. Both India, Pakistan, they had a convention with each other. There was a practice, there was an understanding between the two sides that they will deploy troops only during summer season. They'll deploy the troops only during the summer months. And during the winter season, both the sides will retreat. They'll remove the troops because this region was inhospitable during the winters. This was the arrangement we had before 1984. It was part of an understanding between the Indian army and the Pakistani army. It was a promise, a commitment Pakistan had made. Because see, the terrain, the geography here is extremely violent. It is brutal as far as human survival is concerned. You have very low oxygen conditions, right? You cannot be directly deployed over here. You have to get slowly acclimatized. You have to take some time and slowly climb up in altitude before you're eventually deployed in Siachen. You need special training. You need extreme fitness. You need special clothing, special gear, special food, right? It's not easy to be deployed here, to deploy troops. There are no roads, no connectivity exists here. The only connectivity is through helicopters. The only connectivity here is on foot or via helicopters. That's it, nothing else. So maintaining logistics is a nightmare. It's an inhospitable terrain. You have sub-zero temperatures, extreme temperature conditions, high altitude conditions. So under these conditions, you can suffer from a number of conditions, including frostbite. Frostbite is a condition where the human body, the extreme extremities especially, your fingers, ears, your toes, for example, if they're exposed to such extreme cold, right, they're going to freeze, they'll break away, they'll fall apart. It will result in the rupture of your veins as well, your blood veins. It could even turn into hypothermia. Hypothermia is a fatal condition. It's a potentially fatal condition where your core body temperature will plummet. Your core internal body temperature, it should be maintained at an ideal 37 degrees Celsius. If this core body temperature drops, it results in a condition called hypothermia, leading to multi-organ failure and eventual death. So these are extremely hazardous conditions. Plus, the region is very, very prone to avalanches. The region is prone to disasters because it's the Himalayan belt. The snow-capped areas, they could easily slide down, and it's easy to get caught in these avalanches. Despite these challenges, India, Pakistan both deployed troops over here, considering the significance of the Siachen Glacier. But because of the difficulties, both sides had agreed, they had a commitment with each other that will deploy the troops only during summer, will retreat, withdraw during winter. For every year, this arrangement was being followed. But in 1984, India's Research and Analysis Wing, India's foreign intelligence agency, picked up a crucial piece of intelligence in Europe that Pakistani army had placed a large order for Arctic warfare equipment. The RAW station in London picked up a very, very important piece of intelligence. RAW sources in Europe informed India that Pakistani army had ordered a huge consignment of Arctic warfare equipment, specially designed Arctic weapons and Arctic clothing gear from a European defense manufacturer, from a European defense company. Pakistani army had placed this large order. So when this information was received by RAW, immediately India's strategic community, the government of India and all the institutions, the intelligence agencies, the Ministry of External Affairs, the Defense Ministry, the armed forces, they all got together to analyze the importance of this intelligence. It was Indira Gandhi's government at that point. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was back in power. After a thorough assessment, there was only one conclusion that India could draw. The conclusion was there's only one reason why Pakistan could order this equipment. The only conclusion was Pakistan might be breaching the commitment. It might betray India. It might backstab India. It might be using the Arctic gear to capture Siachen entirely during the winter when Indian troops are not present. After Indian troops retreat, Pakistan might be planning to capture this whole territory for itself by procuring Arctic gear and warfare fighting equipment. So once India reached this conclusion, this assessment, it was extremely crucial for India to act immediately. Because here the terrain is so complex and so difficult that once a foreign country takes control, once your enemy takes control, it is impossible to take the control back. Because this is a vantage position. This is a high altitude area. All the other regions are lower in altitude. Once you capture and occupy these heights, the Siachen heights, you dominate the whole region. Any other force which tries to take it back will find it almost impossible. And your main enemy is not the other country. Your enemy is nature itself. The low temperature, the low oxygen conditions. That is the enemy. Hundreds of soldiers have been killed here without a single bullet being fired. It's all because of frostbite, hypothermia, and avalanches. Both India and Pakistan have lost many, many soldiers. Not a single bullet has been fired here. Right? Close to 1,000 soldiers have died on both the sides. It's because of the natural conditions. So India took a gutsy decision, a very bold decision was taken, and Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ordered Operation Meghdoot, one of the most daring military operations of the Indian Army. India had very, very short notice to prepare. The Indian Army was asked to carry out a preemptive strike. It was a preemptive operation to capture Siachen entirely for India before Pakistan could even make the attempt. Since we had prior knowledge about Pakistan's intentions, India planned a preemptive operation called Operation Meghdoot, which was authorized by then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And the very interesting point is that the Indian Army would order the same equipment from the same European company. We would get the order before Pakistan, plan, prepare for it, and India deployed the troops. And very quickly, the Indian Army captured the Siachen heights. This is a legendary operation. It's a case study around the world. Many other armed forces study the strategy of the Indian Army in executing Operation Meghdoot. They've battled many, many challenges. They overcame the challenges to capture the Siachen heights. And this was a very successful operation for India. This was Operation Meghdoot, through which India preemptively captured Siachen Glacier. So when Pakistani troops came, right, they were shocked, they were shell-shocked, they were surprised to find the Indian presence, a permanent Indian presence. And since then, it has become a permanent military base. Even Pakistan has taken a permanent position here. In the lower reaches of the Saltoro Ridge, Pakistan also has set up a permanent military base. This is the world's highest battlefield. This is the world's most expensive battlefield. Both the countries are incurring crores of rupees every single day just to maintain the troops over here. All right? The cost involved is extremely high. Both money and the lives of your soldiers is at risk. That is the cost both countries are paying to hold their positions at Siachen. We are losing a lot of soldiers here without any war, without any conflict, because of the conditions, because of the inhospitable conditions. Avalanches kill a number of soldiers on both the sides every year. Plus, we are incurring a lot of expenditure. That is why there has been a suggestion to demilitarize Siachen. There has been a proposal that India, Pakistan have considered in the past to demilitarize Siachen, to agree for a demilitarized zone where we negotiate an agreement and both sides promise that we will not deploy troops here and will declare it as a neutral demilitarized zone. Many countries have done that. For example, North Korea and South Korea. They have a demilitarized zone between them where both sides will not deploy troops. Both are committed to it. So there has been a suggestion here that India, Pakistan can save a lot of money which can be used for economic developmental activities. Instead of draining thousands of crores every year on a barren dry land, both countries can spend this money for development. More importantly, you can save the lives of your soldiers. Every year you're putting your soldiers at risk. The human cost of this deployment is very high. That's why it's considered as the world's most expensive and riskiest battlefield. India has shown some interest. We have considered the idea, but the Defense Ministry and the Indian Army are firmly against the demilitarization. They have a reason, they have a valid point. It's very simple. You cannot trust Pakistan. Pakistan is a repeat offender. There is a clear pattern. Pakistan behaves like a rogue state. You cannot trust a country like Pakistan. Today it says something else. Tomorrow it does something else. Today Pakistan might commit to something. Tomorrow there's no guarantee it's going to follow the commitment. Look at the Shimla Agreement. It promised not to destabilize India, not to wage a covert war against India. And what has Pakistan done? It has only scaled up the covert war against India. Pakistan has made 1,000 promises and it has broken all of them. There's no reason for India to trust Pakistan. And hence, even if you work out a demilitarization, today you might sign an agreement. You might pull out the troops. You might have a peaceful situation here for 10, 15 years. But tomorrow, what's the guarantee Pakistan will not backstab India again? What's the guarantee Pakistan will not betray India? According to the Indian Army and the Defense Ministry, if we lose this strategic position, if Pakistan captures it sometime in the future, there is no way we can take it back. It will become impossible for us to take it back. So that is why India's strategic establishment is against the demilitarization and the government has dropped this idea. Right? Many have suggested that this is our starting point. If this is a point where we discuss and work out the issue, we could possibly talk about Kashmir issue as well. It's considered as one of the low-hanging fruit. It's seen as a low-hanging fruit in the relationship that if you can resolve this issue, which is a minor issue, if you can resolve the Sir Creek dispute, which is another minor dispute, this could become a starting point to talk about Kashmir, which is the major dispute. So many experts have pointed out, they've suggested this approach for conflict resolution. They've said if India, Pakistan have to become peaceful, they should start with the low-hanging fruits, the easily achievable targets, which is to resolve the Siachen issue and the Sir Creek issue. If we can solve this, maybe demilitarize Siachen, resolve Sir Creek issue forever, then it could become a ground for talking about Kashmir and resolving the Kashmir dispute. All right? This is one side of the argument. But the government of India has rejected the demilitarization. The Indian Army, Defense Ministry, our intelligence agencies, and in general, the government of India is against the demilitarization. It was just a proposal, an idea, but we are not serious about it because we cannot trust Pakistan. See, India is always ready for talks. India loves to settle any conflict with a mediated settlement. But the problem is we can't trust Pakistan. We can't take its word, right? And it's too much a risk that India would be taking. And Siachen is very crucial, strategically vital for India. And hence India has decided to not give up the position. So India maintains this position despite incurring a very heavy cost, both in terms of money and the lives of our soldiers. That is the price we are paying for Pakistan's misadventures and its attitude and behavior. However, Operation Meghdoot was a very big strategic success for India, a landmark event, right, that allowed India to dominate the Siachen heights, thus controlling a key position, and it allows us to dominate over Pakistan. All right. So this is what you should know about the Siachen dispute. So now let's take a short break. It's almost 7:40. Let's take a 15 minutes break. We'll come back and then we'll resume the discussion. All right. So I'll see you back, I think around 7:55, 7:54, 7:55. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the session. First, let me take all your doubts, your questions for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll resume the discussion. Siddharth has the first question. Siddharth is asking, why can't a plebiscite happen in POK? See, as I told you, India and Pakistan both committed at the UN to hold a plebiscite, to let the people of the region decide whether they want to join India or Pakistan or to keep J&K independent. India possibly would have held a plebiscite if Pakistan had behaved in a neutral manner. But what Pakistan did was it started changing the demography of POK. It started bringing fresh population from other parts of the country and started settling them in POK. So that if the elections are held, people will vote in favor of Pakistan. This was a clear manipulation, right? So India saw that Pakistan was trying to change the demography of POK, so we called off the plebiscite. We said we're not going to hold a plebiscite because Pakistan is not being fair. It is manipulating the population, altering the demography to swing the elections. So on these grounds, we never held a plebiscite. Subanshu is asking, why stop before completion? Under what circumstances Nehru declared ceasefire? Complete takeover would have demoralized the rebellious provinces. As I explained, I already addressed this point in my discussion. The primary reason why we went for a ceasefire was because, one, our armed forces had limitations, right? We had very rudimentary armed forces. Continuing the war was no guarantee for victory for India. Second, it was about the other challenges that we were dealing with, right? Kashmir was not the only problem. We had massive poverty, socio-economic problems. Our agriculture had been destroyed. People didn't have basic food to survive. There was famine in several parts of the country, right? We didn't have basic services. There were insurgencies. There were other princely states which were not ready to join India. We had many pressing problems. We had just become independent. Please understand the context. Plus, we had faith in the newly established UN because UN's primary role was to settle such conflicts, mediate such conflicts, and work out a peaceful solution. So, keeping all these factors in mind, India called for a ceasefire. Next, Sumanshu again has a question. Today, Pakistan is going through an economic crisis. Is it the right time to take back what is ours? If you're referring to capturing POK by force, let me tell you something. I've seen such suggestions come up in almost every class. Please understand, taking back POK would mean going to war with Pakistan. Never ever suggest this in your exam, in your answers. That shows the level of immaturity, right? Because there's no question of taking back POK. That can be done only by fighting a war. Pakistan is not going to give it up. The status quo will remain, whether you like it or not. It's a nuclear armed country that you're talking about. Any possible conflict or war will have nuclear implications, right? This is not a child's play. It's not that you go and take back what is yours. Doesn't work like that in the real world. If we be very realistic, pragmatic, India's trajectory is very different. Our focus is growth. Our focus is development. Our focus is to become a global power. Yes, Pakistan is a problem. Kashmir issue drags on. It affects India, no doubt. But that is something which we should manage, curb the terrorism that comes from Pakistan, and maybe we should go for a negotiated, mediated settlement sometime in the future. As of now, there is no solution. Given the current state of tensions, for the next maybe 15, 20 years, I don't see any solution for the Kashmir issue. The issue will remain as it is. Status quo will remain. So until then, we have to gear up our security to deal with Pakistan's misadventure, to counter the terrorism that Pakistan keeps sponsoring. In the future, if things change, you never know. We might work out a negotiated settlement for the Kashmir issue. Right? So that is the ideal approach. Going to war is not the option. We have never been the aggressor. Right? That is a clear image that we have established, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's going to drag the country down. You're going to drag the whole country down because of one issue. Yes, it's an emotional issue. Many people will feel happy if you go to war, but there's nothing to feel happy about in a conflict. Right? Everybody will suffer. There are no winners. There are no victors in a war. This is a well-established fact. It's going to drain our country, destroy the region, and that is the last thing any country wants. So there's no way to take it back without a war, and going to war is never the option. So don't ever suggest this, that we should go and take POK, capture it, go to war. I've seen such suggestions coming from students. That's honestly very immature. Evaluators will not appreciate this. All right? No government is stupid enough to go to war with Pakistan. And also, trust me when I say this, there is no other country which wants Pakistan to succeed. There's no other country than India which wants Pakistan to succeed and become a stable country. Why? The country possesses nuclear weapons, and the crisis that Pakistan is going through today is the biggest threat to India. If Pakistan were to collapse tomorrow, if its economy, if its government, if its state were to collapse, the biggest threat is for India because the nuclear weapons will go loose. You never know, it might fall in the hands of the extremists, the terror groups, and the primary target would be India. So India will do everything possible to uplift the Pakistani state. Even though we have issues, right? We hate the Pakistani state. At the same time, we will ensure the stability of the state. We'll work with other countries, we'll work with US to ensure that Pakistan becomes economically, politically stable. Whether we like the army or not, it's very important for us to ensure that the nuclear arsenal is safe in the hands of the Pakistani state, not in the hands of the non-state actors, the terrorists. So we cannot see the failure of Pakistan. There's no other country which will be affected other than India. Is that clear? As much as Pakistan will feel the hit, India will also feel the hit if Pakistan collapses. So that is the last thing that we want. Ashwati is asking how renaming something would remove UN from the issue. See, agreements, they work on the basis of the legal documents, on what contracts, on what deals, agreements you have signed. The words you add, they define the equation, the relationship. So Karachi Agreement had given the role to the UN. The UN's role was to monitor the ceasefire line. So through Shimla Agreement, we overwrote the Karachi Agreement. Right? We removed the ceasefire line and renamed it as line of control. So when there's no ceasefire line, what will UN monitor? It's a legal change that we carried out. That is how UN's role was removed, by simply renaming the ceasefire line. Pavitra is asking, do we have any international law to regulate water sharing? No, there is no international law as such. Yogendra is asking, who informed India about Pakistan's procurement of Arctic warfare equipment? India's research and analysis wing, India's foreign intelligence agency, got input from its sources in Europe. There are a couple of questions from Patlawat and Asraf. I've already answered those questions during the discussion itself. Manoj is asking, sir, why India doesn't argue at international platforms when Pakistan leased our territory to China? And now when Pakistan is going through an economic crisis, it can further lease some part of our territory to China. And in such conditions, what is the approach India should follow? See, the only approach you have is the diplomatic approach, right? You use your diplomatic pressure, put pressure on Pakistan and China. Of course, taking this to the UN again is useless. I'll explain later why UN is an ineffective body. All right, UN is an outdated organization. The UN or any other international platform may not give us a solution. But our ties with other countries, with US, European countries, with Russia, right? Our own equation with Pakistan and China. This is what will help us protect our interests. Is that clear? So there are no easy answers here. Yes, China, Pakistan have a close nexus between them. We'll keep discussing this throughout the chapter. The China-Pakistan nexus poses many problems to India, and we have to deal with it diplomatically where necessary through covert methods to our intelligence agencies. Right? Those are the options that we have, and India is exercising them. We are using those options. We are doing our best to protect our interests. Okay, so guys, these are the questions. Now let's come back to our discussion. Let's try to wrap up India-Pakistan relations. So from here onwards begins the next phase of India-Pakistan relationship, where Pakistan launched a major covert proxy war against India. The 1980s is when Pakistan really began escalating its covert war against India. I told you yesterday that after 1971, after the humiliating defeat, Pakistan swore to take revenge against India. It gave a call to bleed India to 1,000 cuts. All right.